Hey everybody, Jane here, and today I'm doing a movie review of Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Now, this was my second viewing. I saw it when it was initially released in theaters. I want to say that was 2016, but I'm not entirely sure. And I recently read the book, and so I wanted to see the movie to see how it compared because there was a lot of things that I wasn't really sure if I remembered correctly or not. And I wanted to see how it was done in the movie versus the book. And I will be doing a movie versus book video as well. So I'm not going to focus on how they are similar and different, but instead just how this is as a movie by itself. This movie, if you are unfamiliar with it, is about the characters from the Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen are zombie hunters. So you have Darcy, who's a zombie hunter, the Bennet sisters, who are zombie hunters, and they are following a lot of the Pride and Prejudice story while zombies happen. So you have Darcy shows up at a party that Bingley is throwing, and he insults Elizabeth as saying she's not pretty enough to tempt him, and then zombies happen and they have to dispense with them, and he decides that he really likes her, and all of the things that happen in Pride and Prejudice to a point. I will say once there's a lot more deviation in the movie. It doesn't quite follow the Pride and Prejudice story as well, for instance, as the book. I said I wasn't going to compare, I'm so sorry. So there's a lot more deviation in the movie than from the original Pride and Prejudice work. It starts off very much, I would say, as almost a satire of the original work. I will say my brother made a comment about the book. I don't think he's seen the movie, but that I felt was true for the movie. And that is, there are times in this movie where there's a lot of Austen and not a lot of zombies. I was watching this movie with my children because we're trying to kind of get them into scary movies, but because this is a satire, it's not intended to be scary. It is gory in places and there's some jump scares, but this is not really intended as like a horror movie, though it follows horror movie tropes. It definitely is more of a comical, satirical story that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not over the top. It's not Monty Python, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of that tongue-in-cheek style. I really enjoyed the humor in this book, or in this movie, and the characters' acting was amazing. And I laughed out loud several times because of how well they pulled off different elements of the story. I did feel like in this movie, the Bennet sisters, other than Jane and Elizabeth, which are the two oldest, didn't get much character development / screen time. Whereas in other Pride and Prejudice adaptations, I know they have, but they were barely present. They kind of show up and are just there. Plot-wise, this does some really interesting things, particularly in the second half of the book, or of the movie. And the character Wickham from Pride and Prejudice, if you've never read Pride and Prejudice, he is a character who at first we're made to think is a good guy, and then he kind of is a bit dastardly. And that was played very well in this and very differently, and I appreciated his storyline in this a lot more than the original Pride and Prejudice storyline. In that, he's a rascal because he's a rascal, and in this, he has a lot more reasons for the things he's doing, and the things he's doing are more serious. You do get some of the Victorian era stuff, like why women need a husband, but it's not overplayed as much as it can be. And I think if you enjoy humorous and horror, even if you're not a huge Austen fan, I feel like you could still really enjoy this. If you are an Austen fan and can handle a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously and that is humorous, I really did have a good time. I would say this is a 4 out of 5 for me. I thought the acting was good, the actors they chose was good, the plot was good, it was engaging, the fighting was fun and appropriate, and just overall, I really enjoyed how this movie was. This is a movie that I would watch again. It's not necessarily one I would watch all the time, but I would certainly watch it again. This, as I said, was my second viewing, and I'd be open to more. I definitely came away with a lot more the second time that I watched it, and my kids enjoyed it, although they did find it scary, so maybe don't maybe don't expose your kids to this when they're really young. It wasn't terrible. My 8-year-olds, they made me sleep on their floor while they fell asleep because they were a little afraid of zombies, but not a kids movie. It's PG-13, so I mean, duh. But it's not terrible. It content-wise, it is not sexual. There's a little bit of graphic gore, but I did think this has an interesting take on the zombies and on the zombie plot, and it's one that I don't watch a lot of zombie films because I'll be honest, I'm not a huge zombie fan, but I like this. I like some of the things it explores, and I really can't mention that too much without ruining some of it, but the zombies in this are they're not dead as much as they are diseased. So there is a question of, can we keep people from turning into zombies once they are infected with this zombie disease? And if we can keep them from being infected, can we keep them with their wits about them and as part of society? Along with all the romancy stuff happening, there's this whole question of, where do zombies fit in their society? And some of the points made were so good, particularly about population levels of zombies. And one thing that had never occurred to me before watching all the zombie stuff I do, but that makes a lot of sense now, is why zombies are always overrunning everything in stories. There's a comment or a conversation in here about zombie population growth that is worth mentioning. And that is basically that to make a zombie takes 5 minutes, to make a adult human takes 20 years. And so that's why you have so much of the inability to keep up with zombies in all settings, because you have people who are getting turned with a bite. And to create more humans capable of fighting the zombies, you have to incubate a baby for 9 months and then raise a baby to fighting age. And that takes 18, 20 years. And so zombies will always, in stories like these, outnumber humans. And that is something you can't solve because their population growth is so much faster, because it takes that much time to make a zombie. And that was something I'd never considered before that was really insightful in this movie. So overall, love the movie, worth watching. If you have seen it, did you enjoy it? If you have read all of the Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies books, does this cover all of them, or just is it meant to cover the one? Because I'm going to be doing another video about the differences and similarities, but this has quite a few differences actually to the Pride, Prejudice, and Zombie book, but it's a 3-book series. So I'm wondering if some of the stuff in here is just in the other books and I haven't got to them yet because I've only read the one. So let me know that, if it covers the other books or if it just went a different direction. If you've read all 3 books and seen the movie, did the movie just go a different direction, or was that some of the stuff in it, like the Saint Lazarus, was that from a different book. The really detailed stuff with the Saint Lazarus, not just the place. My social media is down below. Also, if you would like, please subscribe to this channel for more content. Throwing this out there, I am an author, primarily a romance writer and a historical writer. My books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Smashwords, basically everywhere books are sold. There are some in Kindle Unlimited if you would like to read for free. So if you enjoy romance, please check me out. And this is Jane. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.